I'm pretty good. I've been working on a calendar here and finally figured out the little flaw in the ointment. I'm always happy when that happens, when there's a problem and I can see a solution and fix it. Yeah.
Very good. Well, any big plans for the afternoon?
I'm going to get the calendar working.
There you go. There's the big plan, folks. You heard
Yeah.
it here. Calendars.
Right. I tested out with Paula. She could see it, but it's not live on the app yet. So I'll get there.
Well, and thanks again for everybody for joining us today. Here live, Armed and Thirsty, episode number 8. And what's your duty?
Okay.
What's your duty, John?
Episode number 8. How did that happen? It's like, really? We've
It's
been
kind
doing
of
this.
like time, John. I'm trying to figure out how I got to 57. I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out.
It seems to be a mystery to most people. The time seems to go faster the older you get, but it actually makes perfect sense. When you're 5, a day is a pretty long time because you haven't had very many of them. But by the time you get to 20, days are kind of short because you've had, 15 times as many or whatever, many, many more days. When you get to your age and then to my age, the vast majority of days have already passed.
Right. I always tell people I'm on the backside of the curve, backside of the mountain. But oh well, it's the way it goes.
Yes.
So,
Anyway,
so again, what's your duty? This is one of the things that you wanted to talk about today, and talk about, you know, obviously we have duties to people. We have, with our license, we have a fiduciary responsibility, of course, to our client. But what about when it comes to the general public, a potential prospect, or a customer? And a lot of people are going to ask, what's the difference between a client and a customer? So
right.
why
I
don't you
think
kick it off?
if we look at sort of the field of all people, of all beings, and maybe even more than that, because the question then becomes if corporations have rights, maybe own a property, do we have a duty to the corporation or not? I mean, that's a little bit out there. But so we get the public generally. Let's just start there.
Okay.
And we do have some responsibilities of the public generally. They're set in law, in fact, as well as our code of ethics that, we can't lie. That's the number one thing.
People in this business lie.
All human beings lie. I hate to tell you, Lloyd,
All human beings? Wow.
lying is a part
Aren't,
of being a
aren't
human.
you the optimist John today?
People do lie, but within the scope of being a real estate agent, we really have to be careful about that, and we have to think carefully about how we perform our duties, no doubt. So we owe some what they call ministerial duties to the public as a whole, and some of those are set in law, some of those are set in commissioner's standards, some of those are kind of from practice, some of those are from our code of ethics. We don't have duties to the public directly. We have responsibility, I don't think, aside from
Other than, well, let's start with the one that
responsibility.
usually gets people in trouble. One of the top ones that's typical of lawsuits: disclosure.
Okay, well, we do have the duty
That's
to
one of the few in the time frame of a meeting. I mean, you can't go a week of hanging out with somebody and finally tell them, oh, I've been telling you all this stuff. By the way, I'm actually licensed to sell real estate.
Yeah, so that is a duty. We have a duty to disclose who we are and what our relationships are when there's any hint of a possibility that we're going to be doing any kind of a work. I mean, we don't have a general duty to say we're a real estate agent and we're wandering around. However, in the moment any kind of real estate conversation comes into play, then we do.
Right.
Okay, so we have some other
Because
minister.
we do have a liability if we give advice, right?
Yeah, and we have some restrictions about what kind of advice that we can give to anybody, you know. One piece of advice that we can give to everybody is see an attorney. It's
Mhm.
actually in the code of ethics and also in law that anybody involved in any kind of transaction, if there's any concern about anything, yeah, go see an attorney. You should do that.
I
Like,
mean, even if the setting, if you will, let's just say I mean, we're coming up here on trick or treat day. So whether you're at a costume party and you're just kind of hanging out, and clearly if you're showing up as Spider-Man, you might not look like the typical real estate agent. Um, but if a conversation comes out about a transaction that somebody's involved in, what happens if you're a licensee, you start giving advice?
I think you have to be pretty careful what kind of advice
Yeah,
you give. I mean, on the other hand,
might want to disclose what you do right away.
okay, so, you know, but what kind of advice? I mean, if we're talking about your opinion about the general market, for example,
Mhm.
that could be considered advice. However, if you're stating it in the appropriate way rather than saying, this is what's going to happen, you can say, geez, from all that I've seen, this is and the stats that I'm looking at, here's the publicly available information, which leads me to the following conclusions. Now, I can't tell you for sure if the markets can go up and down, but I can give you my feeling for
Sure.
it. You know, that you're okay with.
What if it's specific to, say, a transaction? Somebody's involved in a transaction right now and they want to get your opinion.
Well, it really depends upon who is, you know.
Hmm.
Because you have several different people that could be involved in the transaction in different stations. You know, you have a client, and the client would be the person that you are representing. That person you have fiduciary duties to, and those duties include some that might restrict your conversation with other people,
Sure.
for example. Because what part of your duty to your client is to advocate for them and also to, you know, you have a duty of confidentiality.
Well,
And
let's say for a minute, going back to the Spider-Man example, you're at the costume party this week. Somebody wants your input on a transaction,
mm,
a real estate deal that they're currently involved in.
well, who are they? You know, are they your client or are
Yeah.
they
Let's say
another?
they're not. You just met them.
Okay. And they could be a number of different people. So they might be a customer. They might be a person who's involved in the transaction, but is, you know, is one of the buyers or the sellers, but you don't represent that person.
Right.
You might have some duties to disclose some things and some duties not to disclose other things. I'd be very careful about the conversation at that point.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you want to find out where this transaction is?
Mm, yeah.
If it's not in Arizona, are you starting to practice law?
Oh, I thought you were saying we were talking about a transaction in which we were involved. So,
Mm-mm.
mm,
I'm saying we're not even involved. You're at a costume party because I see people do this. You're at a costume party and somebody's talking about a transaction they're involved in. And hey, you're a real estate agent. What do you think of this?
I think if you're a buyer or a seller and you're involved in this transaction, you should be talking to the brokers involved. And you also can always consult an attorney.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But I see people, if you will, deal doctoring all
Oh,
the time.
this happens all the time. And, you know, it
Yeah.
happens across
And
state lines too.
even in the social media world,
Yeah.
where you don't even know where this transaction is being done. But all of a sudden, they're spewing out advice based upon so many assumptions. One, you're assuming it's in the state that you are. Two, you're referencing a contract that might not even be getting utilized at this point in time. Um, because the assumption, okay, if maybe it's a transaction that's in Ohio, but I'm going to start spewing out stuff based upon how things function with the AAR, Arizona Association of Realtors contract here in Arizona.
So, you know, this happens most often when, let's say, there's an agent that has referred somebody to an agent in another state, and now that transaction is going sideways, or there could be some questions or something else. And as a result, because there is a relationship between the person who was referred to the agent in the other state, sometimes
Mhm.
that agent gets involved in the conversation. It's really a big mistake.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah.
And do you have some liability there?
Oh, we have a liability in many different directions. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
As soon as we start
Codes.
giving advice, we're
Mhm.
liable. And most people don't understand that.
No, they don't understand that.
It's like if you give advice and it does harm, provided the license that you have, yeah, you got a problem. It's no different than if somebody goes to that same costume party and next to you is a physician. Um, it's Wonder Woman. So, and Wonder Woman starts giving advice about their health care and what they should be taking.
Mm,
Well, if it does harm, are they liable for that?
I think so.
Yeah.
The other place where this is relatively common is when you have when an agent has a client and that client has a relative, maybe even a spouse, that is not an owner of the property or involved in the transaction. And yet, because of their relationship with the client, be it father, mother, sister, brother, wife, it doesn't matter what, they feel that they're empowered to have some conversation and some knowledge about what's going on. But do they?
No,
No.
no, really bad idea. And you're getting limited and you're getting potentially, most likely, you're getting slighted information. You're not getting the whole story. You're getting an interpretation, right?
Absolutely. You're getting a point of view, and that there's an agenda typically.
Mhm.
And we don't know what the agendas are.
The, t- the hidden agenda again.
You should stick with your client.
Hmm.
Oh, well, talk to Susie. She's actually my client. I
Yeah.
know she's your wife, but I can't talk to you about it.
Mhm. And so in your so what do you see as the difference? I mean, when somebody says customer and somebody says client, how do you differentiate the two?
Well, I mean, to me, that's pretty simple. So you have a client, you have fiduciary duties. We know that we are bound to represent them and to advocate for them and to put their interests above our own, let alone anybody else's.
Hmm.
If, on the other hand, you're in a transaction and there is a customer, you do owe them some ministerial duties. You've got to be honest. You've got to perform in a reasonable fashion. You can't try and trick them. You
So
really
the
can't.
customer would be because I see people use these terms
Yep.
interchangeably. And so to you, what you're saying, and I agree with you, a customer is a party on the other side, not represented by you,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a customer.
Yeah.
They could even be self-represented. That's a customer.
That's a customer. However, if they're represented by another agent in your brokerage, they are still a client.
They're a client.
That's
And hopefully it's been disclosed to all parties, or we got a
yeah.
real problem.
In fact, disclose before it happened, disclose while it was happening, disclose
Hey,
as they signed the deal. Yeah.
you mean people get backed into dual agency relationships from time to time?
Um,
Unknowingly?
I never see that. I've never no. It has happened. Yeah, it's true. It's a bad idea.
Do you think undisclosed dual agency happens?
It does happen. Hmm. I wish it didn't.
Yeah. And
I
sometimes
spent
it's
I've spent a good part of my career trying to make sure that it happens as few times as possible.
sometimes you innocently fall into a guilty world on that level.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, because again, I do believe by nature most people sincerely want to help others.
Yes.
And when you cross the line of helping a customer without your client's knowledge, and you start venturing into the world of implied agency where you don't have a written agreement, but based upon your actions, one could reasonably imply that you're now assisting them and helping them. Therefore, you've signed up for agency. Um, People don't understand how strong that is legally in your responsibilities to all parties.
It's so often when buyers who think they know what they're doing, and who knows, maybe they have a pretty good idea, decide they don't want representation. They want to deal with the listing agent directly. They're thinking that somehow or another this might be a savings to them. That's usually the motivation. Sometimes they just have had some bad experience and they really do think that they're fully capable of representing themselves.
Mhm.
But it's a rare individual that can do that. I mean, the fact of the matter is the contract's relatively complex. It's, 9 pages long. Maybe that doesn't seem big to anybody, but there's over 30 different timelines in the contract the buyer has to follow that are not obvious. So,
Okay, so let's have an example here for a moment. Let's just say um, you're my at the moment you want to self-represent, and you're the customer, and you say, "Hey, Lloyd, so yeah, I'm just going to represent myself on this. I
yeah,
stopped.
'cause I'm pretty smart. I've done lots of
Yeah,
stuff.
I stopped.
Hundreds of
I,
houses.
John just stopped here in my open house, and he wants to buy the property. He wants to represent himself. That's fabulous. But hey, Lloyd, I could you just write the contract for me? Could you write the offer for me?"
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
And this is where we get into trouble.
Well, of course, now AR's come up with a little bit of some language that allows the seller to write the contract, the offer
Right.
for the
The
buyer.
seller could write a reverse offer, correct?
Yes, they can. However, if you're doing that, I think you really need to go to your seller and say,
Mhm.
okay, there's somebody who wants to make an offer, but they are unrepresented. And they've given me some indication of what they want because I was not representing them at the time. I was representing you, and they blurted out this stuff. And I have duty to you, not to them.
Okay.
So here's what I heard. And now you tell me how you want to present your offer.
Mhm.
That I think would be okay. But on the other hand, that buyer wandering in there probably expects that there's some confidentiality with the things that they told you.
Well,
And if you're really being careful, you should be saying, I am only representing the seller here. So anything you tell me, I won't have to tell the seller.
John, what if you say to me, "Well, Lloyd, I don't really need your help writing this. I have a pretty good idea that, I know I can read. So could you just give me all the forms that you guys use?"
Can't do it. No, number one, the forms are copyrighted by AAR, and that would be copyright infringement to just hand them over. And number two, now I have performed an action that seems to indicate I'm representing them.
And then now you really have backed yourself into total malpractice.
And also,
It's
I
like giving
broke
the operating room to the patient, going, "I'll see you about an hour."
because guess whose name is on that form? That would be my broker's. My brokerage's name is going to be on there, and they're going to have that form. And now I've implicated the other people in the brokerage. Hmm.
Sounds like a good day. But John, I was just trying to do what was right by my seller. I was trying to sell the property, right? Because that's what, in some of these cases, that's the defense, if you will, that some agents will rely on. I believe it was I believed it was in my seller's best interest because these people wanted to buy the property.
And the
So I
judge is going
gave
to
them,
say, were you going to get paid?
well,
Was
yeah.
there an incentive for you to do this?
Well, I'm not doing this for charity work, Your Honor.
Oh, I see.
So are you saying I was incentivized?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the evidence provides you received a big old check.
Oh, well, I think I was underpaid, John.
Oh, here's another place where people
Uh,
kind of mess up, in my opinion.
uh,
So you have this agency relationship with a client. That's all great, but it doesn't go on forever. some agents seem to think that you've got a client for life.
You breaking up with me?
Uh, well, there's no reason to break up the friendship, but but the agency part,
Mm.
it's over when it's over. And so when is it over, sir?
Well, close of escrow is when it's supposed to be over.
Or if you don't achieve the goal, if you don't actually get the thing done. So there's an expiration to that, that agency exists only for a certain purpose and for a certain time.
Mhm.
And when the purpose has been fulfilled or can't be, and when the time has expired, you're done.
So here you go. Because I've had some people say, well, it all stops at close of escrow. I can't give you any advice. I can't, like, they just shut it all down. All right. So let's just say for a moment, final walkthrough. There's still some things that the seller needed to do. I'm working on behalf of the buyer. The buyer agrees to go ahead and close. The seller is still has agreed to continue to do some, if you will, unfinished repairs because the buyer is like, I can't delay closing. I have a moving truck here. I have 7 people that can help me move the stuff off the truck. And if we delay, this thing isn't going to close today. It's Friday. And I can't, what am I going to do for a whole weekend with my goods, 7 people to help me move? I've got to move forward. So we're going to close today. What's the agent's role in that situation? Now that repairs are going to maybe have to be done Monday, Tuesday, or even later.
I think it kind of depends. I mean, there could be, because the contract itself, which is the point of the whole thing, it expires. It doesn't live past the close of escrow. There are a few things in it that live.
Mm.
Confidentiality, for example. If you do the spuds and you don't tell everything, then that's a problem. That lives.
In this case, we've got some repairs that were agreed upon. They're not quite finished for one reason or another. These things happen. Sometimes it's weather related.
Well, let's just say that I'm just I'm making stuff up at the moment.
Aren't we always?
So let's just imagine that instead we wrote some kind of agreement between buyer and seller, which lived beyond the close of escrow.
Sure.
So, and it's possible to do such a thing. And if that writing had to do with the work that was being done by the seller, and if that writing included our agency at some level or another, then I would say in this case, yeah, there's a possibility that there's some agency that still exists beyond that. But without that, then I would be telling my buyer or my seller, you're kind of on your own. If you close and these things are floating off in the distance, you'll have
The
the escrow
hinterlands.
money, and you might have a writing, and you may be able to go to mediation, arbitration in the courts if things don't work out, but that's beyond the scope of what I can do.
But don't you, okay, so let's just say for a moment, here again is where so many people get backed into a corner.
Mhm.
Let's just say for a moment you got paid because this is how it's going to be viewed. All right. Your buyer does this. It's 30 days later. It was unfinished repairs. The repairs still, the people have not come back. And your client calls you. They're like, hey, we could really use some guidance here. What's going to happen? You're going to be, well, I really can't give you advice at this point. I'm going to have to turn you on to an attorney to look at your alternatives, to seek legal remedies. And they're going to be like, well, you did represent us on this, didn't you, John? I mean, you took care of us. You got paid. So since you got paid, you're done? Are you done with us?
Mm.
I mean, that's how the public feels
Mhm.
in that situation. It's like, well, you got your money. Why do you care?
That would be why it would be really important to memorialize the conversations and to be very, very clear about the limits of your ability to do things. When an
And
agent
and
begins
when do you believe is the appropriate time for that discussion to happen?
before the close of escrow,
Yeah,
yeah,
well before.
yeah, well before. If we start talking about escrow holdbacks or work that's going to be completed by somebody, you'd say, well, let's have a conversation right now. And also you might want to have a conversation with an attorney just to see where you stand should things not happen the way we want them to. I know that we all want them to go the way that they should, and they might, but they also might not.
Well, even better, hey, the buyer in this case, they live out of state. Um, but hey, with that repair, that's 30 days later. Hey, John, could you go over there and check on that repair, see how that's going for me?
Not a good idea.
Do you have some good ideas?
Who are my eyes and your eyes? I know they're very different. What's material to you? It ain't material to me.
But again, you're gonna have that client.
Well, you don't even
You know,
have to
you
go
got
beyond
paid,
escrow
so
for
what do
that.
you care? I mean, I guess since you got paid, you can't help me anymore. Is that, what are we doing here?
No, no. Well, let's have this conversation before the close of escrow, before I get paid. Because you say that you would like to have me do your final walkthrough for you. Um,
This is no, it's not the final walkthrough. We were good there. We discovered that these repairs weren't done, and it's 30 days later. Guess what? It's done now, but we
but
live
I
out of
told you,
state.
Mr.
Why don't
Seller, Mr. Buyer, I said very clearly we should not close. Uh,
you?
I, it's your house after that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have some agreement with the seller of the property that is enforceable in some way or another, then you might be up a creek. And I don't have that paddle.
Well, no problem. Well, I just appreciate you taking the time to not check that. But could you go let our painters in?
Hmm. I don't have access to your
I'm gonna
house,
I'm gonna keep
actually.
backing you into stuff here, Mr. Agent.
Yeah, well, most people are not going to want to hear all of this because I know that this is the standard of practice for many people in the industry.
These are real world things that absolutely happen all the time. And it's why I continue to say those who want to be helpful that can't stop are in time doomed to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Because everything's all fine and dandy until it's not, right? So, hey, really appreciate all your assistance on this. You know, you let people in and out when we couldn't do it, and you've been a great help until they show up and the work wasn't what they had anticipated, or something's broken, or something's missing.
Mhm.
So, what are they going to do?
Or the house is burning down.
Oh, holy hell! Here comes the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another side of this coin is the feeling that agents often get that they do have clients that are not actually their clients. So people that they've worked with in the past, people that are out there, and they've got them on a list at home, and this is my
My
client
client.
list.
That's my client.
Yeah, that's my client. Mhm.
Mm, not anymore.
I have run into that so many times, and it's like,
Why? Yeah, John, why is this agent talking to my client?
why aren't you? Is the question. That's
Mm,
sort of the question that, people just put them on a list and think they're theirs forever, and they're not. It's, everybody's
Hence,
free to do whatever they want to do.
hence our tagline, right? Territorial about real estate. It's like somehow somebody thinks, it's like, it's almost like ice cream. If you lick it, it's yours. And so when agents worked with somebody as a client, they think it's theirs forever.
When I was a kid, my brother and I would, we were at the pool. We would get some treat. We'd have enough money to get one treat, and
Mm.
then we would agree to split it. And so either one of us, depending on who got the treat, would break it in half and lick the big half. Take whichever one you want. We
Mm.
eventually learned that that didn't work in the long run.
Well, that's hilarious. I like the commercials that play off of that stuff. So, got to have a sense of humor in this world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are. Duties to the public, duties to our customers, duties to our clients.
Is there a scenario or anything that we missed today that you wanted to go over?
Oh, I don't know. Um, went flying out of my brain when you got me cornered.
I just like these real world scenarios that actually people encounter almost every day.
Yeah, and the thing is, real estate really is a balance of risk and reward. I mean, you can't play it 100% safe all the time, or you're not going to have any clients, you're not going to have any deals. That's the way it works. I know as a broker once for a very large company that if I were to absolutely clamp down on this is what you do and this is all you can do, everyone would have left.
They would just go to the broker that allowed them to do those things.
Right. Instead, you try and say, going forward, try and do it this way. It will be safer for you and for your clients. Here's the better path. But to freak out about human nature, that people are going to sometimes go a little longer than they should, go a little further than they should, open that door for somebody that maybe they shouldn't have opened it for. It's going to happen. I know that.
Yeah, I agree. It is going to happen. But if you're doing it over and over and over again, someday, innocently, you're going to get backed into a corner that is not comfortable for you, your brokerage, or potentially your finances,
Right. That's the truth.
especially in today's somewhat litigious society.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Somewhat, he says. It's pretty litigious.
You can't drive more than a half a mile without seeing a billboard about it
Mm-hmm.
or hearing an ad or otherwise. That's for darn sure.
And a wreck meter check.
Was that a did we just infringe right there? I mean, is that
I mean,
that
honestly,
trademarked? We might be in trouble here.
well, I don't think anybody's coming to me for, a check from a wreck. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I
it's gonna
think
be a
once it's
small
out in
check.
the public, it's in the public. What are you going to do?
All right. Well, thanks again to everybody that's joined us here today. Armed and thirsty.
Yeah,
I'm Lloyd Fox.
I'm my Jack.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, sir.